here, back with another video. So today we're gonna be doing a little video that has been like super requested lately. I've been seeing in my DMs. I've just been seeing a lot of people asking me, not exactly for this video, but something kind of similar to this. They've been asking a lot for like childhood story times and just kind of hearing more about my childhood. And most of the time I'm like, I've been on social media for my childhood and you guys have kind of seen everything, so I'm like, they kind of know everything. But then I thought about it and I was like, they really don't, because I started social media and there was still like all these years before of my life that you guys have no clue about. So I was kind of excited to do this video just because I was like, I feel like this will be really cool. People can learn a little bit more about me. So I put on my Instagram story, like, ask me questions about my childhood and I'm gonna answer them. And there's a lot of them. So we're gonna get into it. Update on my life. I'm doing better. I stopped my antibiotics yesterday. If you guys didn't know what was going on, go watch my hospital story time because I was in the hospital and there was just a lot going on. I'm feeling better now, and now Florida's being hit with a hurricane tomorrow, so there's just a lot of shit going on. It's just one thing after another. But yeah, we're getting hit tomorrow and Wednesday for the hurricane, and it's looking pretty bad, so I'm kind of nervous about it. I grew up in Florida, so I'm used to hurricanes. They don't really ever scare me, just because I've been through so many. But this one, people are saying it's going to be bad, so I am a little like, oh, okay. But I love storms. I know this is terrible to say. I don't know if anyone else is like, I hate because they really can damage people's houses and it's like really scary. But I'm like obsessed with storms. I know. Whatever. But I'm praying for everyone. I hope everyone stays safe if you live in Florida. I know that these are super scary, especially because they're saying that this is like the water is like warmer than normal. So there's just like all these different things. But other than that, I'm feeling better. The doctors told me that my antibiotics were probably going to give me a yeast infection. And I was like, yeah, bullshit. Like, I'll be fine. No, I got one. And this shit is so painful. TMI. I took Monistat. It's feeling better, but it's still very, very painful and just uncomfortable. So I'm going through that also. So I'm just excited to be completely healed from this. It's taking a little bit, but I know it will end soon. And why does it look like I cut this piece of hair? Do you guys see that? Is it like layers? Is that why? I don't know. Okay, well, anyways, we're gonna get into this little Q&A real quick. That was just a little life update, so let's get into it. So this was the first question that I saw, and I was like, okay, this question I'm excited to answer because this is true as hell. You've been getting hated on since childhood. How did you grow such a strong I don't give a fuck level? Okay, so automatically, I'm going to start this off by saying kind of the way that I was raised was already kind of traumatic and just, I don't have any complaints about my childhood. Like, I don't think I had a bad childhood, and I don't think that I, like, grew up bad or anything like that. Was it the ideal way to grow up? No. Was it perfect? Not at all, but who is perfect, honestly? But it was definitely a lot. Obviously, you guys know I grew up in a toxic parent household. So my parents were very toxic together, and they would fight literally all the time. There was always alcohol involved, and, they would drink a lot. Well, my mom really wasn't. She never drank. It was more of my dad. He's better now, and, he was able to get the help he needed, and now, he has a wife now, and he has a kid, so props to him. But when I was a kid, that wasn't the situation, and, my parents were young, and it was very, very it was traumatic, okay? I remember spending nights up all night listening to them fight, and it was freaking hard as hell. And then having to go to school the next morning and act like everything was fine when I was literally up all night crying because my parents were arguing so loud and fighting so loud and smashing things, and it was just a lot. And did you guys just see that? Okay, anyways, as much as I don't talk about it as much, it really is something that does mess with you as a kid. And so I kind of had to get this level of like, I don't give a fuck. Like, kind of really young as a kid. Because I had to like put on this act and, you know, pretend like I didn't care, and it was really hard. And so when I started social media and I started getting the hate and, you know, all the shit that people would say about me, because it's always been, like, I'm telling you guys, since I've started, I've always had a lot of hate. And, you know, one of the main reasons why I went viral was Musical.ly, and because of a lot of people would film videos reacting to my Musical.ly, like Rice Gum, and he'd be like, these kids need to be stopped on Musical.ly, whatever. So, thanks to him, honestly, he really blew me up. But, that caused a lot of hate for me, and at the time when I had first started social media, I was already going through a lot. When I had first started posting Musical.lys was when my parents had first split up. And it wasn't the best. Obviously, my mom didn't have a lot of money. And, you know, my family has never been, like, wealthy on my mom's side. So they've always just been, you know, able to provide for themselves and their family, but it wasn't like they could just lend us money. They didn't have that. So we didn't really have a home. We were staying with friends. We were staying in the car. And then finally we were able to get a hotel. Finally then moved our way to a 1-bedroom apartment where me, my brother, and my mom had to share. But it was a lot, and it was also me going through kind of my parents splitting up and us having to leave my dad's house and just a lot of shit going on. And so what people didn't realize is when I first started social media, I wasn't just, you know, going through normal things. I was going through one of the hardest things in my life. And I was getting all this shit, and everyone was like, these kids must be stopped, blah, blah, blah. And I was having a really, really hard time. And so I think just from the beginning, I was taught, and it almost made me look at it like, okay, these people have no idea what I'm going through at all, and they're talking shit about me and saying all these things, and they have no clue who they're talking about. And I remember even like in the beginning, a lot of people would make comments and they'd be like, who does this little spoiled little white girl think she is? I was not spoiled. I was literally homeless at the time when people were making those comments about me. I was not spoiled. I had no money. And the clothes that I was wearing were clothes from way before. Like, I wasn't able to get new clothes, which there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone struggles. And so a lot of people would make comments that were definitely not true about me at the time and would just, you know, make fun of me and say a lot of things. Sometimes even people would, like, make fun of where I was. They'd be like, why is she at this place? But little did they know it was the hotel that I was living at. And so I kind of was just like, these people have no idea what I'm going through, and they're commenting about it. And I was, like, really young, so I also didn't know too much about social media, and I didn't really understand what it was. I was just hearing about Musical.ly at school and the Don't Judge Me challenge, and I was like, you know what? I gotta do this Don't Judge Me challenge. So I got on my mom's phone and I did the challenge, and that's kind of how I started Musical.ly, and automatically I just started getting a lot of followers on there. So I think as soon as I got on, I realized what it was, and I realized that it probably wasn't going to be something where people were going to be nice to me ever, and they definitely didn't know me, so I was just like, whatever. And I think that's kind of what grew it for me. And, you know, throughout the years, obviously, it got worse and worse. And I think I've definitely witnessed some really bad hate. Also, sorry to cut this off, but if you guys live in Florida, you know the freaking struggle. There's, like, 4 ants crawling right here, and it's, like, really creeping me out. Like, I keep looking over here, and I'm like... But... in Florida, the ants are just always in everyone's houses. Like, every time I go to a friend's house, they have ants too. It's just a thing here. But yeah, so I learned it from really young, and even now I still get so much hate. And I think that I, you know, had to mature at a young age because I went through just some really traumatic stuff, that it gave me this, like, really mature idea of people in the world and all that. So I think that's kind of how I got it. And I still have that. Like, one thing I will say about myself is that I do, like, really make myself proud of how I, handle things. And I think a lot of people have things to say about me, but I think that if they ever went through some of the stuff that I went through, I don't know how they'd react. So I definitely feel like people don't give me enough props for that. And I don't want to like sound conceited, like, oh my God, I'm so strong, because no one is, no one's perfectly strong. Like, everyone has breakdowns and all of that. But I definitely think that I've been able to really help myself and my family. And so I just feel like when people make comments like that towards me, I'm like, you literally have no idea at all. So that's kind of how I've gotten this I don't give a fuck level. Has your point of view changed on social media since you first joined years ago? I think it's been 7 years, which is so crazy to me, honestly. And yes, it is 100% changed. When I first got on social media, it wasn't really big. We had like Dub Smash and Musical.ly and Instagram, and it was just like, if you were in school and you had a phone, like, it was the cool thing to do. But it wasn't like it is now. This is so funny. Me and my friend Cassidy, we were talking about it because we went to go and visit our old apartment complex that we lived at. And I posted on my story the other day, I was like, oh my God, if you know Musical.ly days, because I would always film those videos outside of that 1-bedroom apartment. And I grew up really close with their family. So they lived it was like a townhouse apartment type thing. She lived a couple apartments down from me. And so we would always hang out, and we were talking about how like all the kids in the neighborhood would like meet up. We would all know, like, we would talk about it at school, be like, oh, meet up at the park at like 5 o'clock. We didn't have phones. Like, we would just all meet up, and we would just always play outside. We'd be outside till it was dark outside. Like, it was so much fun. And we were talking about how it's so different now. Like, you can text at like 8 or 9 years old and be like, hey, meet me at the park. Like, so it's so different. So I think back when I first started, social media wasn't anything like it is now. And it definitely was like a fun thing back then. Now, not so much. It's a really scary and evil place, honestly. And people don't talk about it enough because they see the fame and the money you can get from it. But it's a scary place, the internet, for sure. And I think when I was young, I was just naive and I didn't really understand. And I saw me getting all these followers, and I was like, well, I'm this like broke girl having to share a room with my mom and brother. My parents just split up. I don't know what the hell's going on in my life. I don't live in the best area. If I can do anything to get out of this, I'm gonna do it. So when I saw this happening, my mom, she was working 3 jobs. And so I would ask her, she would leave her phone with me because I needed like a way if I needed to contact like emergency or like, my grandma to come over, because my grandma lived like an hour away. She would leave her phone with me and my brother. And so that's when I started downloading the Musical.ly, and I started doing all these Musical.lys on my own. And then it started coming where like companies and like games were offering me money, like games on like the app store. We're like, oh, can you promote our game? We'll give you like $300, $400. And at that time, $300, $400 was literally like mostly all of our bills. We were living in like a low income place, so we got it for like a good price because we were low income. And so that was like covering mostly all of our bills at the time. And that was like the best thing ever. So when I started getting that, I would like give it to my mom, and my mom was kind of like, where are you getting this from? And then, she got involved and stuff. But back then my point of view was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I'm rich, blah, blah, blah. Because I was a little girl. I didn't know what was going on. Now, I'm like, this shit sucks. I love like my supporters, and I love my companies that I've gotten to do. But social media itself it's so toxic. And I feel like there's just so many people on it, and everyone makes it such a competition, and there's these standards now, and it's a lot. Honestly, it's a lot. It's very much changed. So my views have also changed. I mean, when I was younger, I think my views were just, wow, what is this? Like, this is like treasure for me. Now I'm like, sometimes I don't even want to post because it's just so much. And, that's what I signed up for, though. I do this, and that's kind of what you get. But I wouldn't change it for the world, obviously. I mean, I'm so thankful for everything it did for me, and it really got me out of a bad place. And I've gained so many amazing people, and it almost feels like I've gained like a family out of it. I know that sounds crazy because I haven't met most of you guys. But just knowing that you guys take the time to watch my stuff and, give me that support and, make nice comments towards me, it really does mean a lot. And so I wouldn't change that for the world. Even, when it does get kind of crazy and annoying with the hate or, just the drama, nothing can beat this. So, yeah. But my views have definitely changed so much. Like, just so much. This is such a long video. We have so much to talk about. This is a good one. Who was your celeb crush if you had one? My celebrity crush was Cameron Dallas when I was like a little girl. I would watch the movie Expelled over and over again every single night to go to bed because I was so obsessed with him. I thought he was the finest guy in the world. And then I actually did a promo for his song, and I got to FaceTime him. And it was so funny because he was with his girlfriend at the time, and I was saying hi to them. And obviously I was over my little crush on him now. I was way older, and I was whatever. I wasn't even fangirling, but I was this is so crazy because if this was me 8 years ago, I would have cried. So that was definitely my main one. That was a little fun one, but that was on there. So why did you have a boyfriend at such a young age? So I feel like people are so quick to judge, and this has even happened a lot. I've been talking about this a lot. It's always been said that I had a lot of boyfriends, and when I was younger, I actually, fun fact, I was a cheerleader, but on the off seasons of cheerleading, obviously that was for what is it called? What is that called? Pop Warner. So I would cheer for the Pop Warner teams. And then on the off season, I would do flag football. And so all the guys that I had cheered for on the team, the football players, were also flag football players. So I was always super, super close with all of them and all their families. And I would always get invited to the football dinners. And the other cheerleaders wouldn't really get that because they didn't really know them. But because I knew them all so well. Also, my brother was a football player. I think 2 divisions up or something than me, on the older team. So I was always just around the football players more than the cheerleaders because I played the flag football also. And I would have to stay extra time for his practices and for his games. So I just always was around them all, and I would hang out with a lot of guys. And I hate to be that girl that I'm oh my god, I just get along with guys better than girls, because that's not what I'm saying. I think I get along with both great. It just depends on the person. I really don't care if you're a guy or a girl. If we're friends, we're friends. So at that time, I was just around a lot of guys. And I ended up becoming super close friends with them. And sometimes, in elementary school, I would have a crush, and they would tell me they had a crush on me, and we would hug in the hall. And I would tell everyone that he was my boyfriend and I was his girlfriend. And then sometimes we would post on Snapchat us holding hands, and we thought we were the it couple, and we were in elementary school. And if you didn't have one of those, you didn't live, because that was the shit in my elementary school. If you hugged in the hall, you were so cool. So I had a lot of those, and it was just whatever. Most of these guys, I didn't even have my first kiss yet. I didn't even kiss any of them. We would literally hug and hold hands. So when everyone's oh my god, you've had so many boyfriends, they're counting those because I was on social media and I would post them on my Musical.ly. And I'm okay, it's not even that deep. It's not that deep at all. And even I was really, really young when I started social media. So I have relationships from the beginning that were 2 months long. And people count them as like a boyfriend, and I'm like, okay, yeah, like maybe I kissed them, but like I was so young. Do you even think we said I love you? Do you even think we were in love? No, we were literally just little kids having like our first relationships. So like in reality, I think I've had like 5 real relationships, which I don't think is a lot at all, but everyone seems to think that it's the end of the world. So whatever, I don't even care. But yeah, you know how many like all my friends did that too with guys. So that's my side to the story of that. But yeah. Did you keep your circle small when you were a child/teen? No. I had a lot of friends when I was a kid. I mean, I was telling you guys about how like we would all play in like the playground. Like I had so many friends. Honestly, I was definitely like kind of not popular. I don't really know, but I knew a lot of people, especially because I had an older brother who knew a lot of people, and he like played for like the football team, and so I just knew like everyone, and everyone knew me. And a lot of like the older football players that played with my brother looked at me as like a younger sister to them. So I just knew everyone, and like everyone was always around me. So I would hang out with so many people, and it's so crazy now because now I would never have a big friend group. I hang out with like a total of 2 people and my boyfriend, and I could never have as many friends as I had back then. It's crazy how you change over the years and you completely become a new person. But I definitely didn't keep my circle small back then. And I think that's partially because I didn't have any people that had broken my trust, or I didn't have trust issues back then because I never experienced heartbreak or fake friends. Everything was fine. And I think for all of us, everything was fine when we were like in elementary school. I think everyone kind of had the best time ever. When you started getting older, I think that's kind of when everything changes and you start to like realize things. But yeah, no, it wasn't small at all. It was a very big circle. Now I have the smallest circle ever, I think. And yeah, even when I don't really go out too much, I really try to stay to myself. I think it's just better that way. So it's crazy how things can change, but they definitely will. Okay. What made you switch from wanting to become a vet? So, fun fact, actually, when I was super, super young, I wanted to be a vet, like, maybe, like, from the ages, like, from 6 and down. Like, I really wanted to be a vet because I was obsessed with animals. Then, I found out, so sadly, that you had to, like, give dog surgery, and I was like, yeah, no, that's not happening. So then I was like, not that. And I watched Legally Blonde for the first time, and I saw Harvard Law. And I became so obsessed with Harvard. It was my dream to become a lawyer and go to Harvard Law. I made sure that I got perfect attendance, straight A's. Like, I was like, I'm going to Harvard Law. And obviously, when I started doing social media, that was not really what I was thinking about anymore, because it was just so blindsided. And school really wasn't even a priority, which is not a good thing. Okay, I fixed that. We got back into it. But at the time, it really wasn't what I was worried about. But yeah, so a lot of people, they always ask why in that like famous video of me, I was wearing a Harvard t-shirt. They thought that like it was so funny how I'm like doing this like little Hoey dance and I'm in a Harvard sweatshirt. It's because Harvard was actually my dream college, like for my whole life. It was like, that was my dream, to go to Harvard Law. Is it my dream anymore? No. I definitely changed what I wanted to do with my life, but yeah, that was it. But yeah, the vet hasn't been a thing since I was like 6. I have not wanted to do that. Did you cry often as a child? Yes, all the time. Like I said, it was very crazy in my house, and so I was just crying a lot. And I feel like now I don't really cry as much, and sometimes I think it's like because I just cried so much as a kid and like as like a preteen that I like got it all out of me. Like I barely ever cry now. So When did you get your first period? I got my first period really young. At actually 9 years old was my first ever period. I've kind of always had issues. My mom, I've talked about it, she had PCOS, I have PCOS. So yeah, I started it really young, and it was terrible because none of like my friends had it, and I always like, do you guys always see like the things on like the movies on TikTok where like the girls are like mad that they haven't got their period yet? I was always so embarrassed that I had my period and none of my friends did. I did not think I was the cool one because I was like, you guys are literally so lucky. I was like, this shit sucks. And growing up, obviously my mom, she had very bad irregular periods, but not like the ones that you never get them, the ones that you had them all the time. And so I would always see her like going through the most, and so I would never wanted to get my period. So when I got it super young, I was like traumatized. I was like, are we for real? Like, seriously? So, yeah. At what age did you decide you wanted to be active on YouTube? I would always film like YouTube videos like in my bathroom, like my pageant hairstyle. So I kind of always liked doing that. But I think it was like 2018, 2019 was kind of when I started getting into YouTube. And like for a good while, I was like a YouTuber. Like if you go down on my videos, I was like a legit YouTuber. That obviously stopped just because, you know, things change. I'm trying to get back into it though. I'm just trying to do things that feel more organic to myself, like things like this. I don't really want to do the whole challenges and all that. It just is fake, and I'd rather just be authentic and show you guys my real self in my everyday life instead of just these weird YouTube challenges, you know? I don't know. Best friendship that ended and how? I love you so much. I love you too. I don't think that's too personal. I actually was talking about this to my friend, but I was like, you know, I said those exact words. I was like, you know, the best friendships were before we had phones. Because like I was saying, you know, now kids, you know, in like 4th to 6th grade, they have phones and they can contact each other. But back then, all those kids that I grew up with, I never got to be in contact with them unless they were like one that I was super, super close with, or any of their families, that I'll like still talk to now. But a lot of them I didn't know, because I couldn't get their numbers. Like I couldn't get their Snapchat. We didn't have phones. So I always talk about that. I'm like, I had such fun times with those kids and I'll probably never talk to them again. So I think those are probably the best friendships that ended for sure. I don't even think they ended. I think we just kind of went on with our lives. But now you know, you have phones, and so yeah. Let's do like a couple more. I'm gonna refresh it. Did you ever hide a relationship from your parents? No. Yeah, I don't think so. Never. I did hide one time that I kissed a boy from my mom because I didn't want her to know. It was like a peck, but I was like, she can't know. So I did hide that. So Mom, if you're watching this, just know I did kiss that boy that one time that I lied to you about. Let's see. I'm reading them. Anything bad you ever did as a child that you look back at now and think was very bad? You know, I don't really think it was bad, but I'm like, oh, you should have been a little smarter. But when I lived with both of my parents, we had like a forest in the back of our house. Like I'm telling you guys, like it was a big forest. And like I told you guys, I had a lot of guy friends. And they would always come over like after the football games to like hang out with my brother, and I would always just like tag along because I was bored and I didn't want to be in the house. So we created like this like man cave, but I was like the girl that was allowed in there. and it was like huge, and we created it. And I like took my little like boyfriend one time back there, and we like had a little kiss. It wasn't anything great, like it wasn't even a makeout. It was like we thought we were so sneaky and cool. And now I'm like, you know, it's really not that bad. Like, it's like so innocent. But now I'm like, what the hell were you doing? Like, you were like 10 years old. Like, calm down. But it really wasn't that bad. But anyways, that was like the funnest thing ever. Like, we love that man cave. I would bring up, even if I had girlfriends over, I'd be like, you guys want to see the man cave? Like, come on. But that was like so much fun. But yeah. Those are mostly all of them. I mean, if there is any more, they're kind of the same thing, or they're questions now. So I think some people didn't get the memo. But yeah. Oh, here's one. What was your best memories in your old apartment? I think probably when we first moved in, it was really cool. Finally, like, being able to have, like, a place of our own. I think that was probably the best memory, and that's really stuck with me. And I think just, you know, finally getting to feel like we were out of that really bad place we were in, even though we weren't at all. We were still struggling, but it felt really nice, and I think that was, like, a really core memory for me. I also think just, we used to just have so much fun there. Like, I feel like that's everyone that was a kid. Like, you literally have no worries in your, like, there's nothing you're worried about. Everything is chill. Like, you love life. So, yeah. But that's my little childhood Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, tap the bell, and I will see you guys next video. Stay safe with the hurricane. Love you guys.